Hello and welcome to this exciting episode of What's on Your Shelf. I'm your host Mulure Mike, and today I'm hosting a trailblazer in the literature and publishing space. This lady has done dozens of work. Without any further ado, allow me to welcome to you Verah Omwocha. Hi Vera.
Hi, Mike. Thank you.
Karibu sana kwa What's on Your Shelf.
Yes, books. That's why we're here in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am a publisher, I'm an editor, I am a writer, I am a book lover, book literature enthusiast. I'm also a wife, I am a mom to two daughters. I Professionally, I work as an editor. Currently, I work in communications, offering editorial support to institutional documents at a university. But sometimes what we produce is just a collection of words. Why are we looking at spelling if we do not even have a story? We have, I think, I'm not sure how many, but about 700 books collectively.
When somebody says, I am a publisher, what is publishing?
What is publishing? Most times it's confused with our we use the terms publishing and printing interchangeably, especially for people who are not in the field, or sometimes people who are starting to write. So publishing is essentially the process of taking a manuscript. It was called a manuscript kitambo, when we didn't have all these tools that we have now, technology, and people used to handwrite. Remember? I'm saying remember like we were there, but
I
people
was
used to
there
write.
in the 60s.
Yeah, in the 50s, even before then, way
Yes.
before then. And then they have the scripts typed out, and then the typesetting. So now we can just say it's a manuscript. Taking the manuscript from its raw form, from how you, the writer, has written it, to taking it through a refinement process. That's how I would define it. The refinement process involves editing, involves design, cover, layout, typesetting, formatting, all those things up until it's a complete book. Yeah, yeah. Up until we have this.
So that is what is called publishing.
Yes, yes.
And what is editing?
Okay, another one.
Yeah.
That usually people think you just correct a few errors here and
Yes,
there, and
spelling mistakes
a
here
few
and
spelling
there.
mistakes,
Yeah.
and sometimes the writers can be cocky. They're saying, I have this world-changing manuscript. Just correct, just read through.
Yeah.
As if it's not work. It's actually a lot of work, and it involves way more than just the little mechanical things like spelling, grammar, and all that. So editing essentially means that if this is for instance, if this script didn't, or this book is not the way it was, how it was written by the author, at least the first draft. So usually, and we recommend, of course, even as a writer, when you're writing, you take time to refine your script so that you don't just finish typing the last sentence and you're saying you're done. You're not done. You're just getting started. That's stage one. Okay, now let the manuscript sit for a while. Take your time away from it, because then you come back with a fresher perspective. You're not in the same mental space as you were the first time you're writing it. So then you refine it. You keep refining it until you feel or it gets somewhere that it can be something. It can be quality. So by the time you're handing in your work, it should be, something quality. So once the manuscript arrives at the editorial desk, then it's the first thing. If it's fiction, we usually had the first time I got into publishing, and we still have, of course, a checklist, or a manuscript evaluation form. It's like a diagnosis. So a diagnosis is performed. It's like going to the doctors, and they look at you, and they look at the symptoms, ask you how you're feeling, then they tell you this is probably what is ailing you. So we look at that script, and do a diagnosis, perform a diagnosis, look at it, and is it reading like something anyone would want to read? First of all, can you read with it? Can you engage with it? I mean, is it something that then you look at all those things. Does it read well? If it's fiction, is there a story in it in the first place? Is there a story here, or it's just a compilation of words? Sometimes it's unfortunately saying this with all the respect to writers, but sometimes what we produce is just a collection of words.
Sometimes as a writer, I was like, you don't get it. This,
Yes,
you know.
yes. Oh, shiki. And then you
Yeah.
become an enemy, you know? Like, this person rejected my script. Okay, anyways. That's another discussion.
Yeah, because I'm looking at that as a gateway to publishing, to especially the first time author
Yeah.
who is writing their very first book. They have never been into this space before. They don't know the role of. They don't know who is a publisher. They don't know who is an editor. They know nimeshaandika kitabu, nataka kuenda nayo. Nimesikia kuna watu huko chini downtown wanafanya printing.
Oh yes, and then it's just printed off Word document. In fact,
Yes.
sometimes you see books like that, like those, which are just printed off Word, no design, no layout, no editing, of course. So you asked about editing, and there are
Yes.
levels to it. So I said the mechanical issues come at the very end, because why are we looking at spelling if we do not even have a story? So we have, if it's something that can be helped, then it has to be developed. There's the first stage of development or editing, which is like looking at the script in totality. Does it hold together? If it's nonfiction, what is, how is it structured? Is it saying something new? You know.
As a writer, what am I looking for in an editor, or what kind of an editor am I supposed to look for? What am I looking for in this editor?
In the traditional space, as a career, as a field, it's been regulated in that editors work in editorial publishing houses. Editors work in newspaper. Of course, that's also different. Newspaper editor is very different from a book editor. So you're looking for someone, I hope, someone with experience.
An English teacher. Somebody used to be my English teacher.
They
so
can.
I suspect they know more English than I do.
It's important to work with more than just suspicion, because there are teachers of English who are editors. There are teachers of English who are just teachers, and that's okay. So not every teacher of English can be an editor, because it also takes a skill set. It takes experience.
Vera is an editor. Vera, what are you looking for in this manuscript that somebody has put in on your desk?
What am I looking for?
Yes.
It depends on the genre as well, because genre also dictates. Although we are creative, so we can break the rules, but of course, like they say, it's important to know the rules you're breaking in the first place.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can read something and you can tell that the rules were broken, but they were not understood in the first place. So we have to understand what you're breaking. You have to understand how different genres work. How does fiction work? How does non-fiction work? If you're writing about like the example I gave, what kind of research have you done? And I'm not speaking about research in the very scientific meaning.
Yeah.
Just
Understanding the market.
understanding, not even the market, before you even get to the market, understanding what does it take to do this. What as an editor, I'm looking for a good writing. And I see you asking what is good writing.
I'm trying to reflect on it from a producer's perspective. As a producer, as an audio producer, as much as sometimes it's true to say that I can produce any type of genre of music, especially, the reality is that there is a particular genre that you have strength in.
Yes,
Maybe you're
yes,
so good at
yes,
reggae,
yes.
but all these other things you can try, you have ideas. Would you say that is also the similar case with an editor, where as an editor, there are other genres that you may be good at
Yes.
compared to others?
Yes. There are genres that I, as an individual, because an editor is not a machine. There are people who come with their prejudices. We come with, regardless of this professional experience, it's very subjective. to an extent, not entirely, but it's really subjective. That's how I view a book, or how it resonates with me might be different, or I might like this for this very particular reason that I relate to it. If, for instance, it's a book about motherhood, and I am a mother, I relate to it more. So I am biased, you see. But there are genres that I do not edit because I do not read in. Because as an editor, you also must be a reader.
Yeah. Okay. You wanted to be in that space. You knew you wanted to be in that space. But did you understand what it took to publish at that time?
No. I learned on the job. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But also, this is not your only shelf.
Oh yeah, we have my husband and I have now this is our kids' inheritance. But we have two more. So we have, I think, I'm not sure how many, but about 700 books collectively. And we have a children's shelf. So it's not a shelf. Down there's a stack of children's books for the kids. I think about 100 or so. So we do quite a bit of collecting.
Wasome.
Actually, everyone has a book. Even the little one who is 9 months now has a book she's reading. Okay, you can see her flipping through. It's just a picture book. Yeah. Wow. So everyone has books in this house. Yeah. We are trying to collect, but I should also say that we don't just collect. Actually, from time to time we share books. We share out books that we sometimes, since we are in this space, and my husband also is a publisher. He's the founder of Writers Guild Kenya, and we find ourselves also producing books for other people. We find sometimes we have 2 or 3 copies, or he acquired, I didn't know we had this book, I bought another one. So sometimes we do check, we check our shelves and see what other books we can donate. Or
we want to transition to Verah's works before we take a quick journey through her shelves. I have a million books I want us to talk about. I hope time and my guests today will allow us enough time to talk about. So there, I've looked at your books, and just so that we take quite a bit of time to talk about them, so that we can also get to experience your shelf. I've decided to cluster them in categories, right? And this cluster, there is KCSE Revision Paper 1, KCSE Revision Paper 2, Reading and Comprehension, Functional Writing and Oral Skills, and then there is Longhorn English Literacy Activities, Learner's Book. Tell us about these books. It is one thing to write a fictional story. It's another one to publish a textbook that people are using to do their exams. So how did you find yourself here? Tell us about these books and what has been your role in this.
Oh, okay. I mentioned that I studied literature in campus.
Yeah.
So that's I was trained as a teacher. Yeah. So I am an educator. So I say that while I'm not educating actively in class, I can do that through books. So I got this, the 3 ones, the Semia series that you mentioned, the Catapult series, was done by the publisher I was working with at the time, and Semia Publishers. So we collaborated with Dr. Andrew Nyongesa, who is an educator. At the time he was teaching at a secondary school, but I think he has since moved to a campus, I think. Yes, he's now a doctor. So we collaborated to do the series from my background as a teacher. Yeah, and also working with a teacher who is in class. Yeah.
So what happens in circumstances like this? Are you the one who proposes a concept for a certain book and then you approach a publisher, or a publisher approaches you and say, we've seen what you've done before, please edit and how do you go about? How do you build work such as this?
It's commissioned. So that means it's the publisher's project or idea that they contract a writer, mostly teachers. Of course, they have the knowledge, they have the skills, the experience to talk about or to write guidebooks for learners at different levels. Yeah, so both of them were commissioned actually.
How do you find yourself here? especially looking at you, despite being trained as a teacher. Did you ever work as a teacher?
Briefly.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. I did my teaching practice, and
Yeah.
then I did a teaching stint at a city school in for it was a very short period, 3 months.
3 months.
Yeah.
How was that? I'm curious to know.
Oh wow. Okay, I write this about this in my second memoir, but I went to teach. Okay, what happens is that now the government has rolled out these internship programs. Remember, for public servants as teachers, and I think was it doctors? I can't remember what other profession. But what that means is that if you want to be employed as a teacher, contracted by the government, you do an internship, or they offer these internship opportunities. They give a stipend, and then you teach for a period of a year. Yeah, and then so that earns you more marks for your next interview. Yes.
Thank you so much. And it's a privilege. You're the first teacher that we've hosted on What's on Your Shelf.
Hi.
Where are the flowers for Molimu over here? But let me ask you quickly before I transition to the next couple of books. From your quick assessment as a country, how do you think we are doing as far as education is concerned? Where are we at? How would you rate us?
Tuko mbaya kabisa. Yeah, tuko mbaya kabisa. Well,
what do you feel like are quick recommendations that if by any given chance, I'm sure Ministry of Education are watching this literature podcast.
Oh, yeah,
if they would watch and hear, what are your quick wins that we can start implementing without pushing blame and talking about that person and this? What are some of those things that we can look at ourselves and say, can we do this? That can help us just build a ground for us to start growing. Because I feel like since CBC, the whole place has been messed up that I'm not sure we have a clear direction of where we are heading with education.
I am with you there. I also don't know. I'm also looking at what is happening, what's new, what new thing has come up. But can we have, first of all, can we have a infrastructure? There are children who are still in this age, do not have classrooms. For a start, at least, they do not have a space where they can go to access books. They do not have the access to, and I'm talking about books, not textbooks, non-textbook material.
Yeah.
Can we have more teachers in schools?
Thank you so much. What do you think about the current state of education in Kenya? Please feel free to comment on the comment section below. Share with us your thoughts, share with us your opinions, and let us interact. Let's keep these conversations going so that we find a lasting solution for our nation and for the kids that are coming from behind us. So Vera, now the next series is this one, Wendo Tours. There is Naisula Tours, Marsabit County, and then there is Wendo Tours, Nairobi County. Tell us about this.
Okay, that is also a commission project that I'm working with my publisher, Queenix. Shout out. Yeah, they are doing an amazing space, creating relatable books for children, especially. So yeah, I really appreciate the work that they're doing. So this project is I call it a tourism series, but it goes beyond just tourism, as in the traditional sense we understand it as places you go and wow, this looks nice, or there's a museum here. It goes beyond that. So for instance, the children in Marsabit go there. They are from different parts of the country, first of all. So they're sharing the experience of journeying through Marsabit County, what beyond what they see. Did you know that there is a crater lake in Marsabit? Did you know that there is a desert in Marsabit? Yeah, basic things that we don't think about. We don't we don't share. So they also get to preach peace. Yeah, what can this situation, this long-standing inter-tribal clashes, now we see a lot of it in Baringo, and it's a very sad situation. What do these children have a voice? So that's the question. And yes, they do. What can children do, for instance, to in peace building. Sometimes we think about these issues just from as adults, like we are the gatekeepers, but we think of involving teenagers. Do we
Let me
think
throw
about
it back. Do children have a role to play in peace building?
Good question. Let us know. What do you think?
Tell us,
Yes.
what do you think? Do children have a role to play in peace building? Okay. Give us your comments on the comment section and find those books. Vera will tell us where we can find all those books. So Vera, I want to transition to now this category where we have the Cry of the Crow and Other Stories, and the Crescent Moon. Tell us about this Kwanzaa, the Crescent Moon, and then the Cry of the Crow.
Oh, The Crescent Moon is a short story. It's an award-winning short story. It won
An award-winning short story.
Yes,
All right.
it won the Tito Livio Award for historical fiction in 2018. Yes, it's basically a story set in around the intertribal clashes again in 1992. Yeah.
So the book is based on the tribal clashes of
Yes.
1992.
Yeah.
And I saw that.
In Rift Valley.
In Rift Valley. I saw that and I picked a highlight to it because most of the time when we talk about tribal clashes in Kenya, we talk about 07 or 8. We talk about that. And what is it that stood out for you for these clashes of 1992? Because it's always said that this is where it all started, in 1992. There are a lot of material that I've written that are saying that 2007 and 8 was inevitable because how it started in 1992, it was never addressed. Today we have the privilege of sitting with somebody whose fictional story based on the 1992 clashes can enlighten us on what are the things that stood out for you that built this story. Yeah.
Actually, it's I wish it were as deep as as your question, but I just picked a story because we were making submissions on. You just write about anything that fits in the genre historical fiction. So I just looked around and I said, what can I write about? So I wrote about what happened when I was born. Yeah. So it's, the clashes took place around the time that I was born, though, of course, no, I was not born in the Rift Valley, but I thought about that. And so I did a bit of digging to understand, like, how did we even get there? And like you say, these things are yet to be addressed because we have an entire chain of issues that we are yet to deal with as a society. And then we keep creating more.
So it won an award.
Yeah.
Tell us about the award.
Okay, so it was sponsored by the Italian embassy together with an institution in Italy called Sugar Pulp, and they held a workshop in Italy, which I went to. I attended the workshop in Italy on historical fiction still. So I had, of course, the language barrier, but it was.
I almost asked you to tell us something
about
Italiano.
No, I took pictures. No, but there were English-speaking people.
Yeah.
So
one of the languages I always wish I can know is Italian. It always feels like it's a very old language.
It's very beautiful. It's such a beautiful language.
And maybe
someday.
Yeah. So the title is also very interesting, The Crescent Moon. Tell us about the title. What is it about the Crescent Moon, and how is it relating to the clashes of 92?
Okay, it's let me help me with the book so I find the line. So I'll just read the last sentence.
Yeah.
Or I'll read the paragraph.
Yes.
Okay. Not long ago, Chebet had been happily married, with a husband and 2 fruits from the marriage, her little angels. The new anguish clamored her heart, multiplying and adding a new layer of bitterness and anger each new day. It piled up in her heart and layered itself into a ball of stone. It was day, it was night, for the sun had drowned and the crescent moon had disappeared. So, sort of like a little something to cling to hope, a little something that sparks hope, that brings some light,
What was
It's the mood.
Chebet? What is it about Chebet that makes it
Now you
end
need
like
to read
that?
the story.
Now you're telling us, because you've said it is not deep. The way you've ended it is quite deep.
I mean, you asked about the 1992 clashes, so
Yeah.
that's what I was speaking to.
All right. The Cry of the Crow and Other Stories. Tell us about this one.
Oh, this is an anthology of short stories for adolescents, for teenagers. Basically, especially those transitioning from primary to secondary school. So there are stories about, new environments, like transitions and what that comes with. You're in a new environment. You are growing, you are no longer a child, but you're not an adult. So that in between, that is usually very problematic. Yeah, so just stories that they can relate to, stories of experiences of children going to high school, children in their familiar setting.
Sometimes I always feel like the Form 1 struggle a lot, because when you're in
a
class
struggle.
8, you're with all these kids, and then you've gone to Form 1, you've come back.
You
You're
were
not,
senior in primary, and now
you're not with these ones
Yeah.
anymore. Where's Ainim to Aseko?
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are these other guys that are now speaking too mature stuff.
Yeah.
So you're,
And they're asking you what a microscope is and what a mortar and pestle.
yeah, and I think it's a very critical space. And I was telling somebody that is the place where most of the time some people feel loneliest, because you don't belong.
You don't.
You don't belong to these other ones. You don't belong to those ones. And if not really carefully supported, deliberately supported, somebody can lose it at that point. But what is it about this book that you'd say gives you, like, you're proud of when you look at the short stories that you did, especially yours? I can see yours. The title was Nanjala's Resolution.
Okay, it's basically that difficult transition you talk about, and this kid lands in high school, and she's too tiny. First of all, there's no size. The school uniform doesn't fit her, and then of course there are all these changes. Even as they are transitioning, they don't belong. You're also trying to understand yourself as your voice is, if you're a guy, your voice is starting to change.
Speaking
If
funny.
you're a girl, you're afflicted with pimples, if sometimes. So it's again that transition, how does it's like a funny.
Would you remember how it was for you when you were at that
Yes.
stage?
What
is that thing
I
that
wish I had
was-
journaled, but
What is that one thing that you still remember to date that still stands out?
I remember I was very proud of myself for making it to secondary. Not that I had doubts that I would go to secondary school, but I was feeling like a little adult somehow. But I also remember that I was so small. I was really small. Yeah, and it was so far away from my home, which and where I'd studied. So I went to secondary school in Western Kenya. I was miles and miles away from my home. So my parents would not be around, obviously, though I came from a boarding school. But that change was it was huge. So on one side, I feel like, I'm out here on my own, I've been given powers, some powers of independence.
Yes.
So I thought. And then on the other hand, wow, it's a lot, there are all these subjects, the subjects are added. So getting to adapting to secondary school life,
Yeah.
the food. And back then it was a bit horrible, a bit.
Yeah.
We didn't have, of course, thankfully, we didn't have bullying. I don't remember being bullied, but it was still a lot, navigating that while still expected to pass
You
exams.
didn't have bullying?
We didn't. Okay, I didn't experience. Thank God.
Okay, all right. And because you see, so I think for me, one of the key things that was outstanding for me is now I have my money.
Oh yeah.
Legal
Oh,
tender.
there was that too. Yeah, I had like a 500 bob.
That is mine.
that was
I
a
am
lot of
the finance minister that is allocating resources
Yes.
to mandazis.
to bread. And then you eat all the money. And
Yes, and then by week 3, you are looking at people with those eyes.
yeah. They really should have taught us how to manage money, don't you
I
think?
think so.
Yeah.
I think
That's
so.
also something, There's some of these things you just stumbled on as an adult.
The hard
Unafika
way.
huku nje, and then you're like, wow, there's something called filing taxes.
Yes.
There's something, and you've gotten your first job, you have some small money, you don't know where to start.
Yeah.
You just wing it. It's a bit unfair.
I totally agree. And I feel like financial literacy should be a class in primary school.
It really should.
Where it's not a crime to have money. In some of the homes we grew up in, it was a crime to have money. Why do you have money? Why?
Yeah.
Even if your uncle has given you money, you come and report.
Oh, yes. I'll hand it over, actually.
Yes. We will decide when it's appropriate for you to use that resource. But in the meantime, you remember you're eating in this house?
Oh, exactly. There's that reminder, yeah. But that's something.
I really hope that this can be conversations we can have, because I feel like we have a young generation that is so informed today that a majority of us don't even know how to handle. Mm-hmm. The 10, 12, 14-year-olds today are aggressively thinking.
Yeah. They have access to all this information.
Access to information. There are a lot of things to try out. And I feel like the society has gotten to a place where we're complaining a lot about Gen Zs and not really looking at it and asking ourselves, what is it that they're doing that is wrong?
And first of all, is there something wrong?
Exactly. By the fact that it is not the same thing I was doing when I was that age, does it make it wrong? But sometimes also you understand the fear of the parent, where you're like, if this person continues like this, we will lose this one. So what is the balance? What is the right place to be at? Because I think that is the hardest part for very many parents. You're trying to juggle. You don't know how much you're loving too much. You're babying these people too much. But at the same time, you still want discipline. My uncle used to say, discipline in Uganda. And
which one is that?
People are taught. It is specific. Ugandans tell us which one is the discipline in your country. My Ugandan brothers, the Nyabos and the Sebos. Okay. So there are 2 books that I want to talk about, and I want to talk about them separately.
Okay, we can talk about this first.
I talk about this one first. The Craft of Creative Writing, which is published by Mugenyi Ojambo and Verah Omwocha. Verah, tell us about the craft of creative writing.
Okay.
How was this book born? Where did it come from? What do you think led to the birth of this book?
Well, this is actually Mugenyi gave birth to the idea, and I came in along the way. So he's a very fantastic guy, fantastic writer. Very hardworking. He's one of the very serious, hardworking writers that I know. Him and Peter Ngila, shout out. Of course, there are many more, but I just remembered. I remembered Ngila. Yeah, so he wanted to, when you have been writing, or when you look like you've been writing, people sometimes approach you and they want advice. So they are asking, read my script and tell me if it's good. Give me your opinion about this, or give me an idea. What should I do? How should I write this story? What do you think? And all those. So it's basically like a text. It's a reference book especially for beginners. Getting to write, first of all, what do you need? You think you have the idea, okay, where are you at? It's like working with you now. There are these ideas, these proposals that you can think about, for instance, suggestions on the writing process, and then you pick what works for you, how to create that environment, to even that fertile environment for ideas to bloom, how to do that. Really just nice suggestions for beginners, or for people who want to write fiction.
Yeah, randomly I've landed on chapter 4 that's saying sustaining your creativity. What has struck me is the quick tip at the tail end.
Yes. Oh, yes, we do that, the quick tip for every
write
chapter.
in your head, and somebody was reading this book and making notes on the side and underlines it and says
that's
in
a proof
bold.
it's my proof copy. Okay.
This is your proof coffee. Now this is the one that we want to buy. You want the proof coffee. Yeah, but I like this quick tip at the end of every chapter where you say you're pushing somebody to how to keep that right in your head. Know who you'll be talking about. Figure them out in your mind. When you write the first draft in your mind, once you get down to typing it, you'll just get going. So you're just pushing this person to think fast before they write. Esh.
Yeah, it kind of helps because sometimes I write most of my stories while in the kitchen. Yeah, ideas just come. There's just something about chopping onions and tomatoes that gives birth to ideas. Yeah. So
as I conclude on this book, why does somebody need to buy this book? I know you wrote it. Nyinyi watu walikuwa wanashinda wanawasumbua wanauliza sasa uliandika aje? So mkamwa wacha nikuandikie kitabu. Okay, fine. The book is here.
yeah.
What is that one thing that when you look back you're happy you and Mugeni wrote this book, and what should that person, why should they get this book?
Okay. I like the idea that it speaks about our context, because most of the reference writing books, I don't know, perhaps you can also testify if you have come across African writing resources for Africans, right? So I think most of the resources that we rely about do not speak to us. Fine, of course, the technicalities are the same, but the context, yes. So we have tried to contextualize our environment and speak to someone who is starting, who does not have a pool of time just available to them. They're also trying to make a living. So how to think about writing in our context and in a way that can also be an income generating opportunity, but also recognizing that sometimes that also takes a bit of work and it might not be possible, especially for a beginner. I don't want to say beginner, but for someone who is writing the first book, their first story, it might not be feasible for them to rely on writing as the primary source of income. So also understanding that, So I think that's
so there are other business and contextual
yes, absolutely.
conversations within the book.
Yes, and also other resources that we also link you up with other resources, because also I think a part of it was also born from that idea of people don't know. They look like they or you might assume that everyone knows because you can just Google, but actually people don't know what this entails. In this age, you might assume that everyone knows what publishing is, but some people still think it's merely printing. So so I think that's important.
Before you transition to your final book and go to the shelf to see what other things you're reading, where can somebody find these books? If somebody has seen a title they're interested in.
Okay. Some majority are available on Nuria. Yes. And Writers Guild, you just go on the website and place an order. Some the Queen X books, the series, the tourism series, is also distributed through Naivas bookstores, any Naivas bookstore near you, and actually any bookshop near you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you call them Queen X series.
Oh, the tourism series.
Tourism series. Queen X is the publisher.
Yes.
All right. And feel free to reach out also to Verah if at all that you've gone to a place that you thought you'd find the book and you've not found it. Feel free to reach out. She is on all her social media platforms. She will share them before we finish. And Verah, finally, I have to save this one for the last. Okay. The best for the last. Why? Because the cover is very attractive.
People say
and
that.
And the title, The Diary of the Miaha. Is it what I'm thinking? Miaha is Luo.
Yes. What are you thinking?
Miaha, okay. Being Luo, I know what Miaha is.
Okay, let's
see. A newly wedded wife? A newlywed girl.
You know too much. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Because I've met those who do not know.
I've been around for some time.
Okay.
And also, I came to Nairobi. I was not born here. Me, I'm those guys who came.
Even
Yeah.
we came to Nairobi, so.
Yes, I'm one of those guys who came. But tell us about this book. It looks beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I also really love the cover and the book itself. Where do I begin? Okay, so the book, I wrote it 1 year post-marriage. Yeah,
So it's a personal reflection.
it's a reflection. It's so many things. It's a journey. It's not a guide, but we speak about weddings. So there's a chapter on weddings. Why, and the question why do we do the things we do in the way we do them? Why why do we hold weddings? Why do we wear white? Those basic questions that we don't usually think about. And what does it take to have a wedding? Oh, there's another friend who, I'm not sure if it's here. There's a book, he wrote a book about weddings, redeeming weddings, and he speaks about what you need to, at the very least, to have a wedding, so that it's not something from the context of, sometimes you think about weddings and it's this very stressful thing that you have to add people, 50, 100 people, relatives, to a WhatsApp group so that they hit a goal. Then you can have a wedding. So sometimes we look at it from the monetary aspect too much, that sometimes we forget the essence. Why are you doing this in the first place? So the attention shifts from the thing itself or the ceremony to the flowers, the dresses, the aesthetics.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are nice. Of course, the wedding pictures are beautiful, but do we then forget the essence? What is the expense? What do we sacrifice? Yeah. Well,
I'm looking at this young lady, and the cover says, "A girl trying to understand love of God and her husband." This is a story of a young girl lost in the world, too big for her petite body and unwelcome ideas. What is going through the mind of this girl 1 year down after the wedding?
a lot, the shock. Yeah. Petite has since changed form. It no longer applies. We should edit that. But a lot was going on. A lot about good a lot, and bad a lot. Yeah, well, maybe not so bad, but yeah, things to think about, things that got me thinking. So now I grew up in a very, linear way. You're in this family, then you go to school, and we had a lot of taboos. Our culture is rich, but also there are also those things that you now as an adult think about. So like many African girls, I went through the system of the sex education that we got back then was, you speak with a boy, you get pregnant.
There and then.
Instantaneous.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a lot of fear, in you. So it's really something you're really scared about. Looking at a boy and getting pregnant, speaking even much worse, shaking hands, hugging, unheard of. Yeah. So and then of course you go through school, you transition. You're just supposed to somehow stumble upon this knowledge. You just know things. You're expected to know. Uko nje. Utajua tu somehow. So, and then you go to campus, and then now you have this bit of freedom, You, like you mentioned, you're the CEO of your life suddenly.
You're the finance director.
You're the finance director. And then if you went to school back in the day and you got government sponsorship, you possibly have help. So you have money, Yeah, people used to act like when during that week when people would get help, they'd be like, "I'd step on you and pay you." So it looked like, yeah, so now you're the CEO. You are, you have power. Huh? With money comes power. So, so you are, and then after, in that process of schooling, a higher education, you expected to meet a young man somewhere, a nice, decent young man from a good family, God-fearing.
Yes.
And then you meet this guy, and then you have a wedding, and then you live
Happily ever after.
Yeah. No, you give us children. No, you're not done
Oh,
yet.
okay.
Yeah, give us children. Mix the genders, you know.
Yes. Be very strategic with
Be
the
very,
children.
be very strategic. For the love of God, give us a baby boy. Okay, so there's a lot of that. But then the how, or the knowledge with which to, or how to approach these things. How, if you went to, I went to an all girls, at some point, all girls boarding primary, and all girls secondary, girls secondary. So how the hell am I supposed to know? From where do I get, and how do I know how to even relate with a boy? Yeah. I mean, for the basic fact of not even romantic relations, but for the basic fact of coexisting in society,
yes.
because you're so drawn away, you just relate with people of your gender, and then now, there are these guys, and they're saying things to you. What are you supposed to do? How are you supposed to? What do you say? You're just told, do not speak to a boy.
And nobody came back to unlock that padlock they locked and say, you'll get pregnant.
Exactly. So it's not unlocked, and then now you get married. Then you're supposed to figure it all out. And I thought, of course, now with a better understanding of where our parents were coming from, I am kind of I think they thought that maybe, that maybe we'll just know things, without it being spoken about. In my community, you cannot even say the word sex in where people are. It's like such a taboo.
I can even see you struggle to say it even here.
Please edit that. Yeah, so it's, and all these taboos, and then suddenly you're thrown home, or you throw yourself rather into this marriage,
and you're supposed to be an expert.
You're supposed to be an expert, and give birth to kids, and well, it's a lot. So there is a lot on. I speak to the culture change. I come from Kisii, where one is Luo, so there is that. Landing in Lowland, and my God, yeah, it's a bit funny. Some people say it was funny. I didn't feel like it was funny when I was writing, but some people say they laughed at some aspects. Just like, oh my goodness, so this is how you people live. Yeah, so that, and then I was raised as an Adventist, and then this guy was raised what? Well, he calls it a cocktail of denominations. So Christianity, but he has been to all those, to all that you can think about, all religious denominations within the Christian community.
Yes.
But then by the time I met him, he was settling in as a Catholic. So that was for a while, that was really a battlefront. We just assumed it would go away because we loved each other, but then you get to the reality of daily living, and it was it was a bit much. So I speak about it was only after I got married that I thought about my life as a child, because you're now merging your life with someone's, and you have never quite thought about who are you really, what are the things that make who you are,
make you
make me me. Why do you react to certain situations like this, so I thought about those triggers that got me. For instance, give you an example that I talk about in the book. I really dislike the sound of banging doors, because that comes from somewhere. From being in a rather violent environment, So banging of a door is a symbol of violence in my mind. And I don't want that. Yeah. So just thinking about things small things really, and big things. I think big things like religions and beliefs, value systems. Thinking about the child that I was, I really got to think about. There's a chapter about the child in me.
Yeah.
So I really got to think about my childhood and how really childhood influences who we become,
Who we become.
in so many ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
I have a lot of questions in my head. But I'm looking at, first of all, let me deal with religion. You've met your husband at a point where he's Catholic, a strongly religion.
Yes.
You're an Adventist,
And
another
another
strong
very
religion.
strong, yes.
What were the conversations happening around now? Which way forward?
We just kept skirting around the issue. We just talk, get to a block, and we leave it. I don't know how we were really a bit dumb, I would say. Or we just hope that some magic would happen
Somewhere
and something
it will
will
sort itself out.
something will just sort itself out.
Yeah.
But of course, you have to come to the
How did
reality
you
of.
solve it? Where are you guys at right now? Religiously?
We are Catholics.
I also feel like it's a good conversation that needs to be had, church and religion, because when you step out of your parents' house, there is an assumption that you can manage. And in fact, you're expected to manage. Yet nobody deliberately taught you how to manage. And I remember when you're talking about that issue of the girl, I would say the woman is advantaged. Because before the wedding, girls' friends gather you around and bring you to a bridal party. And there is another woman who's been married for 30 years and is going to come and is going to tell you, they buy you gifts, they give you an handkerchief, they give you certain things and they equip you and they say, now those things are going to happen in that house and in that bed, and these are the things that you need.
Starter pack.
Yes. And that's you're ready to go.
But gentlemen also have, what are they called? Bachelor? Or what?
No, they expect to see if you still have eyes for other women. Can you still see? Can you still feel?
But of course you will see. I mean.
But how is that preparing you for the marriage? Because you see now,
okay.
when you're looking at it, yes,
but
the
we don't.
deliberate conversation. Very rarely do you find men being talked to regarding the marriage.
It's assumed that you will. You're a
You're
man.
a man,
You
you
will
figure
know.
it out.
Yeah.
And I worry, to be honest, of where we're headed, where now even marriages have broken down further. That there are a lot of single parent relationships where the family unit is not coherent or is not together, that children have to experience one parent or have to grow with one parent. I feel like there are aspects that even a man needs to be enlightened about. And it's not necessarily even just enlightenment. It's guiding. Where somebody who's gone ahead of you prepares you and tells you, by the way, today you guys love each other. You don't doubt that you love each other. But after 1 year, you might not say it the same way you're saying it today.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah.
It's a fact. So just manage it in a way that when that time comes, you're not a different person. Both of you are still human beings living in the same house and still enjoying to be there. You've chosen to be together. I feel like people are prepared, especially for the wedding.
Yes,
but
actually,
people are
yes,
not prepared for the marriage.
Yeah. Important conversations.
Miaha. Guys, are you a Miaha? Miaha is a newly married woman in European. And Verah has written a beautiful book. Check it out. And as she's mentioned that most of these books are on Nuria, your leading online bookstore, but they have a physical bookstore. Right now, they moved from 11th floor at the bazaar. They used to be on the 11th floor. Now they're on the first floor. Just walk through the ramp and you'll find it's a bigger space. It's a better space. See you at the store. I want to transition now to the other things. There's a book that I saw that I felt, I know you've spoken about publishing, but I felt like this is something I would really want to hear your comments about. Coming of Age, Strides of African Publishing. As a publisher, tell us about this book and what can you say you've seen in that space that somebody who is going to venture. First of all, just take us through the book and what it says, and then just reflect upon it in the market and look at it from the things you've seen.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's on Dr. Chakava. He passed on recently. May he rest in peace. So he's one of the pioneers in publishing in East Africa, not even Africa. So they published the likes of the pioneers, Kinangugis, and all those people we read published in the 80s, in the 70s and 80s. Yeah. So East Africa EAP has been around for quite a bit. So it's basically the journey through publishing in from the I think it started sometime in 1940s. Yeah, I think so.
They were
Yeah,
publishing in
we need to-
1940.
Yeah, it's
At what
some-
point were they fighting the
I've
Mau Mau
forgotten.
War and still
1940s.
writing books?
I think it's way back. I hope, but we can find the detail later. The exact. They mentioned when they started publishing, and so they talk about publishing being tied with the colonial experience. Back then, there were very few publishing houses. For a start, there was EAP, there was Macmillan, there was Longman, which I think it was which came to be Longhorn. There was what else? There were really a handful.
KI.
KI,
I died in KI because it was in all my textbooks.
Oh, of course, government publisher. So there were you'd handpick, and it was very difficult for a writer to get published, especially if you were not Ngogi, if you were not Major Mwangi, if you were not Grace Ogot, if you were not among the pioneers, it was a bit difficult to be published. And of course, the resources that they had then were slightly, times have changed. So they had, I'm not sure about their business model, but I think a lot has changed in terms of even the tools, even we spoke to one of a writer who came from Nandi. She's a teacher. She's now retired, and she was speaking about her experience with publishing. I think that's pretty interesting. That she sent a manuscript handwritten. So they used to ask for handwritten a copy of the manuscript. So imagine if you just handwrite and have it. And post and send it via post office. Yes. So now you can just send an email with a soft copy. I think those are strides that we have to acknowledge.
Some of us did poorly in handwriting. I want
imagine
to
you
imagine
with
you are reading
handwriting.
certain handwritings
and someone had
Nairobi.
to type it or well, it's a lot. So now we have all these tools that we can use to make work easier. We can send soft copies, and now publishing has quite opened up with things like print on demand, where you don't need to have a huge budget to print books. Yeah. Although books are still expensive, Germany VAT, VAT on paper is...
Yeah, I remember talking to the founder of Nuria, and he was telling me actually one of the things that have opened up that space is that today a writer can even print 10 books.
Yeah, even one.
And yes,
if you want.
There was a time that you could not do less than 500 books.
Yes. So now we have these printers that make it possible for us to print as less copies as you want. And then, so now that makes the space a bit open. There is some writers are publishing on Amazon. Of course, quality is another issue, but the field has opened up to accommodate. Now we have a lot of self-published authors.
When somebody says self-published authors, who are self-published authors?
Writers who have you've published yourself, so that means you own the book in totality. Yeah, you own the profits and the losses and everything. It's your
a publisher owns a certain percentage of the book. If I write
they give royalties. That's a percentage from the net sales paid annually to the writer. So a bit.
How does it work? For example, there are books that you've spoken about that are commissioned. A publisher invites you and says, Vera, write this thing.
Yeah.
But there is a book like The Diary of Miaha, where you've created this product and you've approached a publisher. How does it go in those two different scenarios in terms of copyrights and ownership? Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, we have to understand and acknowledge that publishing houses are business entities. So they're in the business of publishing books. So that means, like we spoke about earlier, that you take a manuscript, if they are asking for it, or if you're just sending it blindly, then they get back to you. If they like your script, then they say, we are going to publish it, take it through the refinement process. We'll have it edited properly so that you have a good product, a good quality product that is not offensive to the reader. Yeah, of course, editing also involves looking at those issues, social issues. You're looking at even political issues, things that can land you in trouble. So they taking through the process, then they do everything at their cost. So it's like an investment. So they're producing the book at their cost, and then from the net sales, they give you a percentage. So I think...
so from that, they are the ones who publish, they print,
and distribute. Yes, they print,
sell.
they publish, they print,
Then they give
sell.
you
Yes,
percentage of so that is now where you negotiate on how much. Who decides how much royalty you get as a writer?
Well, they usually set, most of them work with, last I checked, about 10%, 12%, maybe 15% on the higher side. Yeah.
The writer gets 15%.
Yeah, it looks little, but think about it, mathematics. 15% of 1,000,000 versus 100% of 10,000. I know.
And on the flip side, I'm thinking about it. Isn't it censorship? Because, for example, if it has to be politically correct, religiously correct,
okay.
Things like
I just use those as examples.
No, just thinking about it, because those could be.
Oh yes, of course.
The reasons why they say toa ama hatuwezi kupublish.
And of course, most times they will not. They're not entirely accountable to you, so they might not tell you exactly. Okay, it depends with the publisher, but sometimes because of we still have long strides to take, even though we have come from where Dr. Chakava have come from, we still have a long mile ahead. Yeah. So that means that there are many limitations in terms of even financial resources, in terms of distribution, and we'll talk about readership. There is also usually that is cited a lot in terms of what we are producing, because also if they're in business, it has to make market sense, it has to make financial sense that we're investing in this product. Therefore, we expect for it to sell this so that we get our money back and make profit.
Do you have the say as the creative behind that story? Do you have the say in terms of how much money I can get from it? Do you have the say? Because that is the same war that we had as musicians with the distributors, where you go through this whole process. Yeah. We write the song, you go to the studio, you produce it, you do a video for it, you spend quite a considerable amount of money. We'll
send you 1,000 bob.
And then on the other side, the distributor, because they have the platform, they take 85%. Of the money is generated from that platform, and you're looking at it like, okay, fine, you're in business, but it is not fair to the the artist, because if you're really building this artist, first of all, by just having the platform, you have 1 million of those artists. So even if you took 10%, you're still making more than one artist.
Yeah. Okay.
You see?
Policy issues.
And those are some of the conversations that I feel like sometimes need to be had, especially in a country such as ours, that we have a lot of young people who are unemployed. What are the things that are low-hanging fruits to create opportunities for employment? Because if that space opened up, and Vera, today, you know that the process of me making this book I'm going to make 100,000 shillings in the next 6 months, and I can predict and see if I do this thing and do it like this, I'm going to make X amount of money. So you can bring a team. You can employ 2 other 3 people and say, guys, this is how we're going to be doing this. And you've created employment.
Yeah.
That is the same context I look at it in the media, arts and entertainment space, where you're looking at it. It's not just entertainment. There is somebody who has to wake up in the morning and think about the light, and think about the camera, and think about the battery was charged, and think about the script was written, and think about that thing you shot yesterday has been edited, and think about who is the market that is going to consume this thing.
It's a lot.
And that person needs a lot. You look at a simple video like this, it might look like, now I'm shooting aje.
Yeah.
But sometimes the work that has gone behind it is a lot.
There is the regulator. We have government regulation, right? So one of the goals of education is to promote sound and moral values. Go like that. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So of course we have regulation, and sometimes also we ask ourselves, it's important for us to ask ourselves, this censorship, is it always a bad thing?
It's a difficult space to manage from my perspective.
Yeah, of course.
When you're looking at it from a creative perspective, because creativity has no limits. What Verah finds creative might not be what Mike finds creative. What Mike is so fascinated about might not be anything when Verah looks at it. So when you get to have a conversation around censorship of creative products, creative content, then it's hard. Because the person...
for sure it's hard. It's impossible to have working guidelines
on creativity.
Okay, on the creativity.
We expect you to be wild in your imagination and create, and at the same time the person censoring is asking me, what is unique with this story? People have written about love. What is that different thing you've written now that should make us buy this book? So I have to dig deeper.
Yeah.
Then I come and then you say, no, you no. Love what love nangi hivi.
Okay. Now that's like I mentioned, it's there's a lot of subjectivity to it.
I'm not saying that my opinions are right, but I'm just saying, let's pay the artist, pay the writer. Let's allow the writer to also just look at this as a career. Let's make that space conducive, that even other young people will change that thing. They say, if you want to hide it from a black person, hide it in a book we are writing. Verah has written almost 15
people are reading
books.
And you've interacted with a lot of readers. So.
Yeah, I want to transition kwa kuwa Verah, wewe ndio mgeni wangu wa kwanza ambaye nimepata kitabu kilichosimuliwa kwa lugha ya Kiswahili katika shelf ile. Shelf is called what how do you call shelf? Shelf inaitwaje kwa Kiswahili?
Natafuta lakini sipati. Hey, okay, tutapata baadaye.
But anyway. Dunia uwanja wa vifujo. Tueleze kuhusu riwaya Dunia uwanja wa fujo.
Kwa lugha ya Kiswahili.
Wachanganuzi wa masuala ya lugha watasema, kwa nini tunazungumza kuhusu kitabu kilichoandikwa kwa lugha ya Kiswahili tukizungumzia kwa Kimombo?
Kweli.
Kwa sababu Kiswahili ni lugha ya pili, ni lugha ya taifa. Ndio lugha ya pili inayozungumzwa zaidi nchini.
Kweli.
Tutangangana hadi tufike.
Tungangane basi. Tungangane. Tunaweza changanya tukikwama, lakini sawa. Sasa nampenda sana mwandishi Kezilahabi, au marehemu bwana Euphrates Kezilahabi. Ni mwandishi kutoka Tanzania na ni mcheshi sana. Ndio maana yake napenda kazi zake. Yeye na Said Mohamed. Wanaandika Kiswahili, lugha inavutia. Inakuita.
Lakini tupe kweli kidogo kuhusu nafurahia na nitajipa hiyo changamoto kuzungumza lugha ya Kiswahili hadi tutakapomaliza kusimulia kitabu hiki.
Haya. Sasa unafanya vizuri. Ushapata, mimi kama mwalimu nimezawadi alama 37.
37. Okay.
Kwa insha.
Kwa insha 37. Unajua insha ilikuwa inatainiwa juu ya alama 40. Kwa hivyo niko karibu na.
Uko sawa kabisa.
Nashukuru.
Kwanza mwanzo niseme kuwa nilijipa changamoto kusoma Kiswahili. Huu mwaka najaribu kusoma kwa lugha ya Kiswahili na lugha yangu ya kwanza ya mama Ekegusi. Najaribu sana, najikaza ili nisiwe a successful colonial project. I already have, na sifurahi sana jinsi ambavyo naweza zungumza lugha ya wenyewe kwa ulaini, kwa utaratibu, bila kusita. Lakini ikifika kwa lugha ya Kiswahili ndio mimi natafuta maneno siyapati. Si vizuri. Sasa nikajiambia huu mwaka nitajaribu sana nisome vitabu vya Kiswahili sambamba na vitabu vya Kiingereza.
Asante.
Sasa hii nilisoma, lakini si mwaka, nilisoma mwaka uliopita, unafikiri 2022 ama 3. Inafuatilia tu maisha ya jamaa anaitwa Tumaini. Anazungumzia ile amu ya kutafuta furaha. Maanake sisi kama wasafiri wasafiri wa duniani tunatafuta sana kuwa na furaha.
Je, alipata furaha hatimaye?
Bado anatafuta. Nafikiri bado anatafuta.
Kiswahili ni lugha ambayo tunaweza sema inazungumzwa zaidi. Iweje kuwa ukiangalia hata mimi na wewe tunavyojaribu sana na sasa kuzungumza lugha ya Kiswahili. Tunajaribu sana. Iweje kuwa Kiswahili ni lugha ya taifa, lakini sisi kama wanataifa ama wananchi ya Kenya hatujazingatia matumizi ya lugha ya Kiswahili katika maisha ya kila siku.
Mazungumzo yetu ya kawaida.
Ndio. Ni nini unafikiria imefanya Kiswahili hakitumiki katika maisha yetu ya kila siku? Kwa kuwa mimi na wewe ingawaje tumezungumza lugha ya Kiswahili kutoka utotoni, tulisoma Kiswahili shuleni, ndio lugha ambayo tunaitumia kila siku. Taa zinapomulikwa wanasema sasa zungumza lugha ya Kiswahili.
Unaanza
unafikiria changamoto imekuwa wapi?
Mara nyingi tulizungumza lugha ya Kimombo, ama kwanza nikizungumzia mimi mwenyewe nilisoma, sijui kama wakati mwingine mlikuwa na vitu ambavyo viliitwa discs.
Tulikuwa na disc.
Unatambua. Wakati mwingine hata kulikuwa na gunia ati unavaa ukizungumza lugha ya Kiswahili ama lugha ya mama. Kwanza lugha ya mama imeandikwa hapa nyuma mimi ni mjinga kwa lugha ya Kimombo. Nadhani mara nyingi pengine partly ni hiyo experience ya kuwa tulikuwa cultured sana kuzungumza lugha ya Kimombo sana. Alafu ukiendelea kukua, ukienda chuo kikuu, ukielekea kufanya kazi, mara nyingi lugha ambayo inatumika ni lugha ya Kimombo. Sana kwa wale ambao wamesoma ama wanajitia wamesoma. Ni lugha ya Kimombo. Sana. Wakati mmoja hapa pale utapata wanazungumza lugha ya Kiswahili, lakini angalia tu. Hata kwa mitandao tunatumia lugha gani? Lugha ya Kimombo. Nadhani ni hiyo continuous colonization.
Na nakubaliana na wewe kwa kikamilifu, kwa sababu ukiangalia hata katika masomo mbali na Kiswahili ama funzo la Kiswahili, masomo mengine yote yako kwa lugha ya Kimombo. Iwe sayansi, iwe hesabu, iwe Kizungu, iwe
lugha ya Kimombo. Kwa hivyo mnapata siku 4 za kuzungumza lugha ya Kimombo alafu siku moja Kiswahili. Na
Kiswahili pia waizungumza tu katika
ilikuwa kama punishment. Ndiyo. Mara nyingi si ile kuikuza lugha ama kutafuta kuelewa zaidi.
Kumbukumbu moja niko nayo nilipokuwa katika shule ya upili. Nilisomea kule Nyanza na sisi kama ndugu zangu kutoka mule karibu na ziwa Victoria, Kiswahili mara nyingi sisi na Kiswahili
hampatani vile.
Mara nyingi hatukai pamoja.
Ni nini inaweza kuwa imechangia haya?
Nataka kuanzisha uchunguzi, kubainisha ni nini ilifanya lugha ya Kiswahili ikatutoweka. Lakini sasa nakumbuka tukiwa katika shule ya upili, katika zile tu mbinu za kuwa na ule msukumo wa wanafunzi kuzungumza lugha ya Kiswahili, walisema Jumatano itakuwa siku ya lugha ya Kiswahili. Kulikuwa na comedy. Kila watu walipokuwa wanaenda katika ile assembly ya Jumatano, ulikuwa unaenda na mbavu zako ziko tayari kuvunjika, kwa sababu viranja walikuwa wanang'ang'ana na ile lugha ya Kiswahili.
Wanachoma kabisa, wanachukua lugha, wanawasha moto.
na nadhani ni kitu cha maana sana, kwa kuwa kama ni desturi ama ni tuiweke iwe kama desturi, kwa kuwa Kiswahili ndiyo lugha ya taifa. Na pengine wewe ambaye unatutazama nyumbani umetuona jinsi ambavyo tumeng'ang'ana, tumejaribu. Dadangu Verah hapa pamoja na mimi wako mtangazaji wa lugha ya Kiswahili, tumejaribu. Lakini pengine utuambie ni nini unafikiria inaweza kuchangia sisi kama wa Kenya ama wa Afrika kuizungumza ile lugha yetu ya Kiswahili ambayo sisi wenyewe tunasema ni lugha ya taifa. Tuizungumze kwa kikamilifu, na hata watoto wetu, kwa kuwa kuna watoto sasa hivi hawawezi kuzungumza lugha ya Kiswahili. Angalau mimi na wewe tunaweza ng'ang'ana kidogo, tubambanye hapa na pale, tutengeneze tuseme kitu ambacho mtu anaweza kuelewa. Je, ni kitu ambacho tunafaa kufanya kwa msisitizo ama ni dhana gani ambayo uko nayo tukikamilisha huo?
Nafikiri pia badala ya kucheka mara nyingi ukijaribu tu kuzungumza Kiswahili pahali popote utapata tu watu wanacheka. Manake nadhani pia ni ile kufikiri kuwa tumejikubali au tumekubali kabla hata tujaribu kuwa hatujui. Sasa hatuwezi. Tunasema tu mimi Kiswahili hapana. Kiswahili ni kigumu. Na mara nyingi watu wengine ambao nimezungumza nao ni wanataja kuwa wakisoma Kiswahili kilikuwa kigumu, kwa maana kilifanywa kuwa ni lugha ni ya chosen few, watu ambao wanatoka pale Kwani, nyinyi watu wa ziwa Victoria mmesema sisi na Kiswahili. Lakini nadhani ni muhimu jinsi umetaja kuwa unafikiri kufanya utafiti. Naweza saidika, tujue kwanza shida hiyo wapi kabla ya kuanza kuitatua.
Kweli kabisa. Na kama uko pale nyumbani pengine utatutazama na unajua ni nini ambacho kimechangia swala hili ya kuwa sisi wenyewe, mbali na Kiswahili kuwa lugha ya taifa, sisi wenyewe hatukizungumzi kwa viwango ambavyo vinafaa. Ile ambacho kinaweza kutusaidia hata sisi wenyewe nao kuwasaidia na wale watoto ambao wanatoka nyuma yetu kuweza kukizungumza. Niliona kule Uchina, nimeona nchi za Ulaya wanafunza lugha ya Kiswahili na wako na ile himizo sana kukielewa lugha ya Kiswahili.
Kwa hivyo hapa tunasema lakini tuzidi kuhimizana.
Na ukisikia mwenzako akiwa aizungumzi jinsi ambavyo unatarajia, tafadhali umpe himizo. Ndio.
Si kumchekelea.
With all that said and done. Nataka transition sasa, mtasemaje kwa lugha ya Kiswahili ndugu zangu? Transition. Na hata ndugu zangu ambao wako hapa nyuma ya kamera wanajifanya kuwa wanisikii. Transition ni kwa lugha ya Kiswahili. Kwa hivyo Verah, nikubalia
kwa sasa unaweza sema kwa sasa ningependa kuangazia kitabu.
Acha niangazie kitabu kingine. Na nimependa sana kuna vitabu ambavyo
Vimesomwa kweli kweli.
Zimesomwa kweli kweli na vimetiwa saini na maalama. Wacha nizungumzie vitabu hivi viwili. Let me talk about these two books. Dust. What stands out in your shelf about these two books is that they are so marked.
Yeah, they are.
What is it about these books? What is it about this? Tell us about Dust.
First of all, I use the markers because I don't like marking too much. Na markers ama highlighting. Nafikiri kwa maoni yangu ni kuchafua kitabu. Wakati mwingine huwa nazieka alama lakini sipendi sana kutumia sana. So natumianga this ones. Lakini sasa my daughter discovered she started pulling them out, so nadhani nitaendelea tu ku-highlight. She pulls them out, so I can't tell what place to go back to. But anyway, they are heavily marked because I used these texts for my primary reading, for my thesis, research work, for my master's in literature. I was interested in female characters. Mara kwanza nilisoma. Sasa roho ya Kiswahili
imekataa kukuacha.
Which is nice. We should do this often. Yona sasa inafanya kazi. Ukizungumza unazidi
jinsi huru kuzungumza lugha ya Kiswahili. Kiswahili kinapokuja kiwachilie.
Sasa nilizitumia for my research work. I was interested in women characters. Mwanzo nikisoma kitabu cha Dust, hata kabla nianze the research work, I was it really ni vile vitabu ambavyo unasoma and you take like a week to recover from the reading experience, because it's such an intense book in my reading experience. Watu wa literature kuna theory ambayo inaitwa reader what jina imeenda, lakini ni kuwa basically saying that our reading experience is influenced by other things, so we are our experiences and blah blah blah. Yeah, so when I read that book, it stayed with me so heavily. It like tore my heart apart, and then it really stayed me. It stayed with me. It really struck me, and it really it triggered something very Kenyan in me. I know, and somehow, in a way, in the midst of all that heartbreak, it really made me feel Kenyan. So it's one of those books that I really treasure, and I'm so glad to Yvonne for writing it in the first place. So and then I was on a second hand, like I mentioned, I started thinking about women more deliberately when I read Utengano. Yeah, the experiences of women, what makes them tick, these experiences that they go through in their familial setting, in their professional setting. So I was really struck by that, and the women in that book really, I had a thing for them. They really drew me. I felt so deeply with the experiences that they undergo and all that, and I thought, wow, this is really striking. So when I was thinking about what to research on for my part of my accreditation, I was like, I could look. This is something that I would be so interested in. So I ended up studying or researching on women and trauma, the intersection of trauma and madness. Yeah, and what is, of course, you'll ask me what madness, because this is literature. Then we don't talk about, or in my definition, in that definition, is that it's not the scientifically diagnosed madness, but there are signals to indicate that absence of sanity. So those signals, I saw them in Dust, and then so I combined the two, looked at the female characters who were so easy markers, zote ni things that struck me, things that I could use for my work. Yeah.
So that's still sticking with Dust. What you said very interesting things of it made you feel Kenyan. What about Dust really made you feel Kenyan? What is it about the book? And what are some of the things that makes Kenyans Kenyans?
Wow, good question. Very serious question. Uliza hiyo kwa Kiswahili sasa.
Umezungumza kuhusu
Okay, sawa. Nilikuwa nakutania. Lakini sawa. What struck me most about that, it's that Kenyan experience, our collective psyche, our collective struggle, what we have been through as Kenyan society, if I can just lump us all together as Kenyans, where we have come from, the colonial experience. What did that do to us? What does it keep doing to us? Because we are hatujapona bado. Yeah, so these people who lived in that period, people who went through the Mau Mau experience, people who what kind of they somehow I also talk about inherited trauma. Yeah, how these things are passed on to other generations.
Yeah.
So I was really struck by that experience. I felt so sorry for us. I felt like, hugging this Kenyan in me who has been through a lot. And I might not have lived through that experience. I was not born yet, but I can feel it. I can experience it through these stories that are shared, through the books that have been written about that experience. Yeah, so I really felt there's a line there in the book that says it's a very common phrase for people who have read the book, that the three languages in Kenya, there's English, Kiswahili, and then silence. So, they coming from the era of the Mau Mau, Nyayo, experience, where there was a lot of you cannot speak, freedom of speech. What does that do to an individual? So at the basic level, it's what do these experiences, how do they impact our psyche? How do they impact our mental you want to go to the mental health topic, but here we are. Yeah, what does it do to us, to our collective consciousness?
Yeah.
The killing of Tom Mboya.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are at a place where we are in violent circles every election year. Your book, you spoke about 1992. 1992 is where it all started. But look at it, 1997, something similar happened. 2002, we were spared a little bit because everybody was against one person, and people were, hey, Moi is leaving and all those things.
Oh, yeah.
And then
there
now,
seemed to be a bit of hope around that time.
And then 2007, now hell broke loose. 2013, 2017, and even 2022.
Yeah.
We have to lose lives, we have to lose people with every election year. And part of me always thinks it's because we've never dealt with some of the things that started happening pre-colonial season that have shaped the culture, that has shaped our political landscape, that have shaped our economic approach to how we are doing business and how we are relating with the outside world. But from where you sit, which way forward? How do we move forward with that pain, with all this? And you're almost saying we are not going to talk to you. You killed our people. But you still need those people. They are you're exporting goods to them.
How do we heal?
Yes.
Collectively. Healing, and journey,
But let me
right?
ask you, and I know where you're headed. Let me just understand from you, what is healing?
Getting to, I think I'll just randomly throw this, getting to that space where you are first accepting of what has happened, because you acknowledge you appreciate. Oh, appreciate sounds a positive word, but you acknowledge its existence. So first, I think keeping that history alive for our children, because not erasing. Someone was speaking during the launch of this book. We'll speak about it, and she said, "How come that the when if you're talking about the Jews, the question of the Nazis will still come up. Will come up. What they were doing. If you're talking about South Africa, apartheid will come up. But we somehow collectively we like to somehow hope that we'll escape by not going there.
Yeah.
But I think part of healing is acknowledging and confronting these realities that have happened, because they have happened, like you say. Now how do we move forward? Because then I think it also means looking back in order to look forward. You can't just go if you don't know where you're coming from. It's important for all of us to appreciate that this is where we have been through a lot, and this goes beyond just creating memes to be temporarily, to laugh temporarily, when we are deep inside, we are really hurting people. And in so many ways, there's 2-7, there are all these things that even if you're not afflicted, you are, what they used to say about HIV/AIDS, you are affected. If even if you do not have you did not live through the experience, your family members did not, you're still affected in some way. Because I think about how much we humans invest in wars. How much machinery, how much, technicalities and high level meetings just to plan wars, man. And we forget the sanctity of the human person. And so there's that process of dehumanizing first, before even the killings, before even the real atrocities. There's a process of reducing this human to that we are not the same level. They're lesser humans. Because to be able to do some of those things that are done to people, then you cannot be looking at them as fellow humans. It's not possible. Yeah. So, and then how do we look at this collectively? How do we even report? How are these things reported? 7 people were killed, 11 people were killed. If it's you're talking about a situation in the recent ongoing Baringo, the banditry, then those peoples, they're not even mentioned. Yvonne talks about the name. There's a line there where she says, naming something is bringing it to life. And I think about it like assigning names is recognizing this person as a human. But when in mainstream media or we just reduce people to numbers, and we say this number of people, if they are not, if they're not government officials, if they're not high ranking individuals, then they're just numbers.
Yeah.
It's a very sad reality.
It's a very sad.
So I think first of all, if in, I don't know in which ways, if we can put as much effort to preaching peace. Like we were talking about, what can kids do in peace building? Because kids do not understand. I mean, my children will be playing out there in school or wherever, and they will not think, oh, wait, where do you come from? Your people are this and this. They will never think like that. So we, the adults, introduce them to these labels and tell them, these people are this and this. We should treat them in this way. We don't talk to Kina who's because they are from a different tribe. They're from. So we keep unconsciously even perpetuating this dehumanization process. So it's ongoing. It just keeps being recycled. But I think if we just looked at people as people, first of all, even as we're doing all these things, policy issues are fine, but just looking and treating people as people, first of all, before even anything. There's a book I'm reading. It's called All About Love. I'm reading it on Kindle. It's by bell hooks, and she talks about that. What is love, and that basic understanding, no, not even don't even go to romantic love. That basic ability to extend care, to extend understanding, to be human to other people, and sometimes we think that it's other people out there who are doing these things, but examining ourselves in our private spaces, in our workplaces, the things, the small, the little innuendos, the jokes that we make, what are they perpetuating? So I think it's an entire peace building, brick by brick. Hopefully that we can get to a better, at least, a better people.
Rwanda last week was marking 30
yeah,
years. 30 years of genocide. And what are some of the things you think worked? I don't know if I can say worked, but the warring communities started speaking to each other.
Okay. I'll just speak to one that I know.
Yeah.
That they removed the labels again. They removed the label of because their ID cards before were reading this is a Hutu, this is a Tutsi. So they removed those labels so that you just Mike. No need to say where you come from because you're Rwandan. That's enough. Yeah. So I don't know if it's something that is borrowable. Is that a word?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's something that can be borrowed because labels are dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah. But I also still want to
Sure.
I noticed that the two books you used as a thesis were from the same author.
Oh, yeah.
The Dragonfly. Tell us briefly about the Dragonfly, but I'm interested more in knowing about the author.
The author.
Yes.
Oh, she's amazing. Okay, I've not met her. The day I will meet her, I'll be like her.
Yeah.
Social media, you don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
So she's a writer that I really like. Oh, she won the Kane Prize for a story actually, coincidentally, about the Rwandan experience. My God, it's heavy. You feel it. I felt it in my tummy because I read it. It's called The Weight of Whispers. You could check it out. So the story won the Kane Prize. But she's also, people know her mostly for Dust, I think. But she's a very serious intellectual. Man, she's a brilliant mind. She has written a number of essays. She has done very, very serious interviews. You should check her out. Yeah.
I'll check her out.
Yeah. I've interacted with her work and I am amazed. She's a national treasure.
Dear Yvonne, What's on Your Shelf is requesting that you come and speak with us.
She's amazing. Please, can I come and serve water when you're shooting?
Yeah, but and I was at what is it that made you pick two titles from her?
Well, first of all, it's just how academia works. Yeah, so that was not exactly my choice, but I just thought it's easier to look at how this works intersects with regards to what I was looking at.
As somebody who's also read extensively, what are some of the things that makes her work stand out from your perspective?
Oh, the writing, man. Oh, okay. Now, how can I describe her writing? Oh. It's very fine. It's very poetic. She has like one-word sentences, and the urgency in that. You feel it, and then she has this ability to create characters who just move out of the pages to real people. Yeah, she looks deeply at the human experience. I think it's how she I think she walks around with the microscope looking at the human experience to its very fine detail. No, not just creating characters who you need to do this and that. It's that the human experience. Again, that's a personal bias because I like books that are deeply introspective and create images or characters that I can think about way after years after I've read the book. Yeah.
So I want to move to that next book, but I would want to also ask that you quickly tell us about The Dragonfly Sea.
So that's okay. That's a bit no, not exactly historical, but she makes a what is it called, an author's note here to tell us that the experiences are not. Oh yeah, she does a note. So in 205, they okay. There's an admiral who makes his first voyage around the Western Indian Ocean. There's a young woman from Pate Island. Pate Island is in.
Lamu.
Yeah, okay. She obtained a scholarship to study in China. So the award was given based on family claims and DNA tests that suggested that she was a descendant of that sailor who had come centuries before, who had survived a storm-brought shipwreck. Yeah. So it's basically, the novel is inspired by that historical incident. That young woman, actually, I think Yvonne went to talk to her, the lady who got a scholarship to study in China, because it was presumed from DNA samples that she was a descendant. Yeah. So she bases the story on that. Wow. And she's this character, this young female who is approached to, whose mother is a single mother again, because the man did what he could do best, which was watch. Watch. So yeah, so they come and they talk to the mother, of course, offer her money. That's now the novel, not the historical event. Give money. Of course, there's also the implication of the Sino Africa. What's the word? Yeah, the relations between China and Kenya. Yeah, there's a lot of that in the novel. So the lady, of course, goes to China by sea, and so it's tracing her journey. She's coming of age, traces a journey, both the metaphorical and the physical voyage to China, and she'll go, yeah, the experience of her landing in China, and they're treating her as like an artifact. Yeah, so they're talking to her. She realizes that they are claiming her, but she doesn't belong. There's also the question of identity. She doesn't belong there. She doesn't quite belong here, or her ancestry from her father's lineage has cut off her mother before getting pregnant out of wedlock. Yeah, so there's a lot of that, and her journey, it's very, very interesting. Yeah, then she falls in love with a Chinese man. Yeah, so they come back. Well, there's there's a lot that you could speak about in regards to Kenya and China, and but I was just looking at her experience. Also, she undergoes a lot because yeah, there's in both books. I also speak about the sexual abuse, the verbal abuse. Basically, the women, female experience that is relatable to many women across the globe. Yeah, in terms of abuse and yeah, a lot to think about.
There's so much to think about, but there is so much more to experience, and I think that is what makes this very interesting. You had picked Hope's
Skip and Jump. This is actually very recent. You should talk to the author. Yeah, it's a very pretty recent book. I think it's a month old now in the market.
A month old?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Hope, Skip and Jump. So you'll also love this. It speaks to the Kenyan 207 post-election violence, but from a children's experiences. It's narrated in a multi-dimensional way. There are three narrators who are children, teenagers transitioning. They're teenagers basically. So they talk about the pre-war, the post violence. Yeah. Of course, the itself, and a bit of the post. Yeah. What what it did to them. So the author speaks about growing up in Naivasha, and she likes to make fun of this on Facebook, so I can say it. She comes from a place called Aongebiang.
Yeah.
Oh,
In
okay.
Naivasha.
Oh yeah, so that's where they were living when she
It's
was.
called Aongebiang.
No, it's not in Naivasha. She comes from Aongebiang. It's karibu na huko
I would have
Ziwa
been
Victoria.
shocked. Yes.
Yeah.
How did Naivashanese
Yeah.
people say
So-
Aongebiang?
So the election takes place when they are in Naivasha, and it's a lot. Of course, there is displacement, there are killings, there are children who are conscripted into gangs. There are children losing their parents, their children disappearing. So it's a very heavy experience. Yeah, and we also she talked about their lack of being documentation around these experiences. For we just wing it, we just keep going. So and that's why sometimes your mind can only take so much. It reaches a point where it cannot carry you forward any longer. Yeah, so she talks about it being important to document that journey. It took a while, a lot of also accepting, a lot of navigating the experience and healing and getting to the point of writing this experience. Yeah, it's a very intense book, and it's so well written. I cannot overemphasize that. It's such a good read for sure. You will appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I really love
I think
that.
we'll check it out, and I like how much Kenyan literature
I
is
know.
out there.
Yeah, we really have good books now. People are saying, "Oh, I do not really." Okay, sorry, but if your reason is not that you don't think we have good books, you should try these ones. Man.
Yeah.
Hey, and there's this other one. This is a collection of short stories. I'll just speak briefly about it. This is a couple of years old, but the stories are not old, not at all. So Munira writes about the experiences of people in up north, Marsabit, where she comes from. Yeah.
And fit for
Oh, she's also
society.
my co-author for one of the tourism series, tours
Hussein.
Marsabit. Yeah, a fine, fantastic writer. Oh my goodness, those stories, I read them, I remember them up to now. I keep saying I should reread them now because I read them a while back, but they are very good stories, very good stories.
Tell us about
She's
Unfit
actually
for Society.
there is I'm not sure if I can say this. Munira, forgive me if you're not ready to share, but this book, there is an agent from somewhere in the West who wants the book to have it published. So that's how good it is, and the agent sought her out because the book is good. Yeah.
What is
Okay.
it about this book that you, as a Kenyan, also was shocked to learn about?
How much I know so little about this country. I was embarrassed and shocked. Yeah, how much I do not know, because the stories or what comes to mind when you think about Turkana, the up north, or going all the way to Mandera, you think about terrorism, unfortunately. So we think about the lack of peace, the clashes, the wars, children dying, the hunger,
The drought,
the
the
drought.
hunger, yeah.
We think about those, but we don't quite think about the people.
Yeah.
The people, their lived experiences, that not everyone, of course, even though we have had experiences again, some of the issues that we have to deal with, terrorism as a country, but there is certainly more to the north than just the negative, what we call the mainstream media projects, what the stories
I can't
we
wait
feed
myself
off.
to read that
You
tour of
should.
Marsabit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's like an interesting story. It's like a story. It's a day's read.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot more to these experiences. Sometimes we just fend off what is said in public spaces, but we never really ask ourselves beyond this, because we get what Chimamanda calls us the danger of the single story. We just know this single story.
Yeah, and that's your gospel truth.
That becomes the truth because it's in public media.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why
Very
those
beautiful.
stories are close to my heart.
I want to close,
Okay,
but I
yeah.
can't close without this one book
one?
I have that has been staring at me here the entire afternoon. Our bodies, their battlefield. What war does to women? Tell us about this book.
I've just remembered that line from a film. You're a filmmaker.
Yes.
It's called Hiroshima Mon Amour. It's centered around what happened in Japan, World War. Yeah, but I recommend it.
Yeah.
So there's a line that one of the characters, there are basically two characters in the movie, she says that they make advertisements for soap. Why don't they do this? Why don't they make advertisements for peace? Something to think about. I've just remembered it. Yeah, so war again we go back to peace and peace building, and that's I'm not done reading that because it's such it's a heavy read. It's
I
one
think
of those
what
books
has
you read.
struck me with this, because we are at a place in the world where war looks like it's something we are attracted to.
It's so normalized. It's
Yeah,
like
it's
this is how we do
normal,
things.
and right now there is this war with Israel and Palestine in Gaza, and people are supporting. There are people who are really saying it is not our war, but we are supporting Israel. It is not our war, but we are supporting Palestine. You're looking at Ukraine and Russia. People are even building weapons. People are ferrying weapons to continue fighting that war. I have friends who come from Congo. I work with a Congolese band and kids who grew up in the midst of that violence. They're in a foreign country, but the atrocities that were committed to their family members, to the people they saw, rape, which is the primary violence against women. Where do we draw the lines? And I'm just, sometimes I'm asking that question because even you and even maybe the person watching us today don't have an answer. But do we have a role to play?
In prevention?
In finding a sustainable way future or a sustainable way forward. What is our role? What is the role of me and you and this person and whoever is watching us today? Is war the solution? Because this battlefield, the war will end. Tomorrow Israel will wake up and say, we've left Gaza.
We pray.
Yes. But this woman, this war will never leave their body.
Yeah.
This child,
That's profound.
this war will never leave this child's head.
That's how we destroy generations.
And every single decision in that person's life will be influenced by what they think about what they've seen. Vera,
You get to that point where you are
But this is such an interesting book. When you finish it, call us. We'll come back to hear what you think. But just from the text and from what I've seen, Vera, as I conclude, what are you currently reading? What are you looking at?
I am reading. Okay. I am reading a number of books.
How do you read? How would you describe your reading?
I've hazard sometimes. Unplanned sometimes. I do not exactly plan. Say, this. I have a
I identify because I think I don't plan for my reading. The
You
books I
don't.
plan to read, I don't read.
The ones
The
books
ones
just
I
call
just
me.
grab,
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
you
You
find,
see,
hey, you
yeah,
like this one. You're
yeah.
opening the first page, kidogo, you're halfway.
Yeah, actually, you could just stand here and then you pick this book, which has been here for 2 years, and then you're like, oh wow, this gem has been lying here.
Yeah.
I don't plan. I don't struggle to read or to make reading such a serious experience. I just read when I can, whenever I can. Yeah, and when I've created the time. Yeah, I started because my children are a bit much. I started planning for reading dates. Just go somewhere out of the home because I work from home to go read for just just reading and coffee by myself. Yeah.
Wow. But
Yeah.
also, this you're telling us about
We are reading, so we have a family book club.
you have a family book club.
Yes.
Tell us about family book club first of all.
It's because we are both we are in the book space. We are both readers and we like books. And
That is you and your husband.
yes, yes. The children have their own books, and when they see us reading, they also pull their own books and read. Even yeah, I know. So they really copy. Even my daughter could come and see you and crisscross her legs and just pick a book and act like she's reading, even if it's an adult book. But yeah, that's important. So the book club collapsed a bit because of the kids again. Enemies of progress.
Yeah.
But no, in a light way. So we are currently reading this Time-Wise Productivity Secrets of the World's Most Successful People. Yeah, we are serious like that. We pick easy reads. It's a very easy read. We pick this from we do bookshop dates, which means we just go to a bookshop for a date and we could spend hours over there browsing through books. Have you seen? Oh my God, let's look at this one. It turned out to be a date experience. So we don't struggle with things. We incorporate life in this activity.
It's very interesting because most of the time when people think about book club, you think about your friends out there, you think about hardly do we
but
think
you have
about
people in your house now.
yes,
So we try to read together when we can. Sometimes we are not reading books, we are reading other journals, resources. He's now a researcher in climate change, so we might be reading a lot of technical things.
Please,
Yeah.
when you read climate change, tell us.
He will tell you. I am just the PA.
I'm sure when it's cracking up at night and you wake up, sometimes those things wake you up and you tell me, no, can you imagine?
Yeah.
Can you imagine what they are doing in
Yeah, can you imagine? Money has been eaten. Okay. And then I'm also reading this. Again, women. I am
between
biased.
ourselves.
I read
Let us
a lot
between
of
mothers
books.
and daughters.
Yeah.
Which combines with the question I wanted to ask you. You've mentioned something about your daughter when you're reading, and your child is really, really picking up some of those things from you. And especially being a girl, she's likely to pick. There are a couple of people who speak about mothers and daughters. But when you look at the three generations, look at your mom, look at you in the middle, and look at your daughter. What are some of those things that you'll identify with that book as letter you received that you're passing on to this other one?
It's really interesting because they're letters by Florence Nightingale. How is that name pronounced?
Nightingale.
Yeah, that one. My Kissy ancestors might decide this is the moment to shine.
Yes.
Yeah, so there are letters between her and mother, and you're like, wow, this is really really interesting to go behind the scenes. There are letters between writers like Sylvia Plath, between her and her mother, and she's talking about writing the Belgia and saying she thinks it's going to be a hit, and it really became a hit. So it's really really interesting to read the behind the scenes, the domestic life of women, and women trying to do other things beyond the domestic space, women trying to get into traditionally male dominated spaces, women just talking about their children, their anguish, their joys, their sorrows. There's something about that really appeals to me as a mother, as a woman. Yeah.
What are some of those ones that you experienced yourself from your mom and now your
like reading.
Yeah.
An easy one would be like reading. So I picked that from my mom. My mom is a reader. She would come here and she will read. She will pick a book and just get on reading.
Did you write
So,
letters?
well, unfortunately, no. We really should have. Can you imagine such? Okay, anyways.
But how would you describe
But
your relationship
we write
with
to
her?
our kids too. Yeah. My husband and I write. We are handwriting. We have emails. We have letters. So we tell them about the experiences. I want them to know how hard I've made my life, but they should know. But I think with understanding comes empathy. So if they understand my experience, how was it? Those are questions I'm now asking, because you really think about your mother when you become a mother. Yeah. So I think making them understand this is our experience, this is my experience, really makes people, when people understand you, they're kinder to you.
Yeah.
You might
They're more
notice they are
understanding.
more understand, because they know that they know who you are. They get behind the scenes. They get to see what kind of human you are, and most people are drawn to, us sharing that experience. Yeah.
I can't stop to mention that just from being here, I've seen 3 shelves. That's a lot.
We are collecting. We are collecting.
How did you find yourselves here? And what do you have? What is in which shelf? Because
These books are not arranged in any particular manner. Just look at the size, yani zenye zinakaa, so that they don't look too odd. There is no order. When we get a bigger house, amen, we'll have, one of the things that we speak about is having, can you imagine just having a library home, like a serious home library, where other people can come and just, read and borrow books, hoping they'll return. But anyways, to keep these books, because they're books from way back that now you can't, are not in print. So now I've started thinking, by the way, oh wait, before I give, like, you just randomly dish this out, make sure I have another copy, because there are books that I would love for us to preserve. There are books that I will even incentivize for my daughters to read, like this one. I would really want them to read, get to understand other people from different parts of the world, get to read about their experiences. Yeah.
how much has your mom influenced in the mother you are?
There's things you pick unconsciously. There are things you do a certain way. Now I understand why she could. My husband asks, is it possible? He's looking for a book. If you have a recommendation, please use the comment section. If you have a book that speaks to how to raise kids without shouting, please find that book for us. We need it. Yeah. So now I understand. Women used to say, now I understand, because now my mom. Yeah. Character development. Yeah. But what are the things that I picked? Feeding, I think. Like, even though we live in Nairobi, we really try to eat. Food is at the center of it's amazing. We don't even talk about food, except to say I'm hungry. But there's a book I have on the title is What They Ate, and it's looking at some, is it women? Yeah, women leaders and what what they ate. Basically that. Yeah. So it's very interesting. I would say, yeah, the kind of food that we eat. Yeah, I'm now the CEO, so I influence what people eat in this house. So that, I think I borrow a lot from my mom. Like, we try to eat what we know. Yeah.
It's a difficult thing,
it is.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. We try small. So things like those, around feeding, things around.
Your mom was a big.
Oh, my mom is an amazing woman, man. Hats off. She's like the duo of it all. Yeah, she's amazing. She has done a wonderful job.
Yeah.
Shout out, man.
So
She's a career woman, raising kids. She went to college after she got married, so that's a big plus. And she's done pretty amazing for herself.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of her. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I
So,
think,
so of course there are many things that I pick that I might not remember, but I do them. Yeah.
But I just like how you light up when you're speaking about her. It's a good thing.
It is a good thing.
Yeah.
Moms are everything.
Yes. Okay.
Sorry, Dad. Okay, sawa. Dads are trying. By the way, dads are really trying these days.
That's the world. Yeah,
Or to the kids, yeah. But I would say honestly, like I see that change in behavior. I see more intentional dads, so that's a beautiful thing.
Thank you. Thank you. Dads are trying. They're out there. They're trying their very best. So Vera, thank you so much. I'm sure you and I can speak for the whole day because we have not even touched. There are some Kenyan titles, some people I know, some of whom I've hosted here, like Best Before 09 by Sharon.
Yeah, like
I've-
this.
Yes.
Teacher Mwalimu. Oh, this is a teacher's experience. Oh, yeah. This is
Yeah.
also something
A
I
perfect
recommend.
score.
Memoirs of a Teacher. A perfect score. Yeah. You should talk to him. He's amazing and he's doing a great job. I have Unia's works here. Unia is another Kenyan fantastic writer. She's an amazing poet and short story writer. Of course, she writes short stories. Yeah, so there are many Kenyan books that I really recommend. I'm also reading All About Love, especially for parents. I really recommend it, but for everyone. Yeah.
All About Love by who?
Bell Hooks.
Bell Hooks.
Wait,
Thank you
is her
so
name Bell?
much.
Okay. Check.
So Vera, if somebody is looking for you and somebody want to get in touch, how can they find you? Where can they find you?
Okay, this is where we say I am on social media. My name is Verah Omwocha. Verah with an H, Omwocha. Yeah, that's my name on social media.
All the
I
platforms.
am an easy find. Yes.
And yeah, the first time I saw Vera was on LinkedIn, so you'll definitely find her there.
They suited up.
Yeah, but thank you so much for allowing us time to journey through your shelf and just experience your world of literature, interact and allowing us into your space. We really appreciate. We don't take it for granted. Thank you so much to everybody who's journeyed with us through to the very end. Thank you so much for watching to the very end. This has been What's on Your Shelf, which has been brought to you courtesy of the Kenya National Library Service, who are our partners in this podcast. Which National Library Service facility is near you? Please, this is now a trivia. And I'll give a reward in mind in the next episode. The first person to tell me which National Library Service facility is near you wins a book from the What's on Your Shelf podcast. But also, most of these books, including majority of which Vera has spoken about today here, you'll find them on Nuria Bookstore, which is also our partner on this podcast. Nuria are online. You can find them on nuria.com, but also they have a physical shop at the Baza Plaza, first floor. Check them out and speak to them, and they will guide you on how you will find the books you're looking for. But above everything else, thank you so much to everybody who's continued to journey with us on this podcast. What's on Your Shelf? From the statistics, about 70% of the people who are watching the podcast are yet to subscribe to the channel. So I want to request you to kindly take a minute, subscribe, like and share with friends and family. And that also allows us to also get even bigger guests who I am sure will inspire both you and I to be able to experience the world in a very different way. To the team that has put this together, my production team, thank you so much for this, and also to our consistent and continuous partners in viewership. Thank you so much. This is What's on Your Shelf. I've been your host, Mulure Mike. And until the next one, bye-bye.